The bar was alive with the kind of energy that made the air feel thick, an undercurrent of tension, the kind that made people glance over their shoulders, half expecting trouble. Dim lights flickered over worn wooden tables, and the scent of whiskey and cigarette smoke lingered in the air. A storm rumbled in the distance, but inside, the real storm was brewing at the back corner, where a group of bikers had taken over. They weren't just any bikers. These men carried an aura of dominance, the kind that made strangers think twice before crossing them. Leather jackets adorned with patches, arms inked with stories only they understood. Laughter boomed from their table, but there was an edge to it, sharp, like a blade waiting to be drawn. Outside, the storm was coming in fast. The wind howled through the empty streets, rattling loose street signs and sending dry leaves skittering across the pavement. The distant rumble of thunder echoed like a warning, low and menacing, like something waiting to strike. The streetlights flickered, casting long, shifting shadows on the cracked pavement. But inside the bar, no one seemed to notice. Or maybe, they just didn't care. The place was alive with noise, booming laughter, the sharp crack of pool balls colliding, the murmur of low conversations laced with the scent of whiskey and cigarette smoke. A place where men didn't watch their backs because they expected trouble, and when it came, they welcomed it. Except for one man. A lone figure stood just outside the entrance, his silhouette barely visible under the flickering neon sign. His hand rested on the door handle, unmoving. To any passerby, it might have looked like hesitation. But it wasn't. It was something else. A moment of calculation. Because a man like him, he didn't just walk into places like this without reading the terrain first. Without knowing exactly what he was stepping into. Inside, the laughter from the bikers grew louder, rougher. A glass slammed against the counter. A chair scraped against the floor. Someone muttered something under their breath, followed by another round of cruel laughter. The figure outside exhaled slowly. A habit, maybe. Or a ritual. Then, finally, he pushed the door open. And the moment he stepped inside, the air shifted. And then, the door creaked open. A man stepped inside, and just like that, the noise in the bar dimmed, if only for a fraction of a second. He wasn't imposing, not in size, not in presence. No chains, no patches, no swagger. Just a simple bomber jacket, scuffed boots, and a quiet, controlled posture. His face was lined, not with age, but with experience, like he had seen things that would haunt most men for a lifetime. He moved toward the bar, his steps unhurried, his gaze steady. Something about him was different. Not a threat, not exactly. But not someone to be ignored, either. And that was the problem. Because in a place like this, when a man walks in without fear, it makes the ones who thrive on intimidation uneasy. Before I tell you what happened next, because trust me, this is a story you won't believe, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you love stories of resilience, unexpected lessons, and moments that make you rethink everything, this channel is for you. And don't forget to drop a like if you've ever seen someone underestimated, only to prove everyone wrong. The old man sat down at the bar, nodding at the bartender. Whiskey. Neat. He didn't glance toward the bikers, but they noticed him. One of them, a mountain of a man, thick beard, arms like steel cables, leaned back in his chair, smirking. Looks like we got ourselves a real tough guy, he muttered, just loud enough for the others to hear. The group chuckled. The veteran didn't react. He simply took a sip of his drink. That only made it worse. The leader stood, stretching as he walked toward the bar, his boots heavy against the wooden floor. He stopped beside the older man, his presence looming. "Hey, old-timer," he said, his voice laced with amusement. "You lost?" The veteran didn't even turn his head. "Just having a drink." The biker chuckled, exchanging a glance with his crew. "That so?" He leaned in slightly. You look like you've seen some things. This time, the old man did turn, just slightly, just enough. And for the first time, the biker got a good look at his eyes. They weren't just old. They were knowing. The kind of eyes that had seen war. The biker's grin faltered for just a second. "You a soldier or something?" he asked. The veteran exhaled, slow. "Once." The word carried weight. More than a simple answer, an entire lifetime compressed into a single syllable. Silence stretched between them, thick like smoke. And then the biker clapped his hands together, breaking the moment. "Well then," he said, his grin returning, but now there was something forced about it. "We like to test a man's mettle around here. What do you say? A little challenge?" The old man took another sip of his whiskey. "What kind of challenge?" The biker gestured to the pool table. "Arm wrestling. Best of 3. You win, we buy your drinks. You lose, well, you owe us a story." The bar waited. Watching. The veteran sighed. Then, slowly, he rolled up his sleeve. The biker grinned. "That's the spirit." They took their places at the table. The bartender stepped forward. "All right, gentlemen. On my count." The biker cracked his knuckles, gripping the older man's hand. He was strong, no doubt about that. But strength isn't just about muscle. 3, 2, 1, go. The biker pushed. Hard. Nothing happened. He gritted his teeth, veins bulging in his neck, his biceps flexing. The veteran's arm didn't move. Not an inch. And then, almost imperceptibly, he smiled. With the kind of ease that made it look effortless, the veteran brought the biker's hand down against the table with a sharp thunk. The room erupted. The biker yanked his hand back, shaking it as if trying to regain feeling. His friend stared, mouth slightly open. "Best of 3, the leader said, jaw tight. Round 2. This time, the biker braced himself, fully prepared. He adjusted his grip, planting his feet. 3, 2, 1, go. He pushed with everything he had. And again, nothing. His muscles trembled, his breath came in ragged bursts. He had size. He had strength. But the old man had something else. Experience. Precision. Control. And when the veteran decided he'd had enough. Thunk. A silence heavier than before settled over the bar. The biker sat back. His face was no longer angry, no longer humiliated. Just, thoughtful. The veteran rolled his sleeve back down, reaching for his drink. "Looks like you owe me a whiskey." The bartender poured. The biker lifted his own glass. "To real strength," he said. The veteran met his gaze. "To knowing when to use it." And just like that, the air in the bar changed. Respect. It's not about who shouts the loudest, who looks the toughest, who takes up the most space. Real strength? It's quiet. It's steady. It doesn't need to prove itself. That night, the bikers didn't challenge him again. Instead, they listened. To his stories. To his lessons. Because sometimes, the strongest man in the room isn't the one throwing the first punch. If this story hit you the way it hit me, make sure to subscribe. There's more where this came from, stories that make you think, make you feel, and remind you that sometimes, the quietest ones have the loudest stories to tell. And if you've ever seen someone underestimated, only to prove everyone wrong, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear about it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.